So in this video, I want to explain to you how I feel high almost all the time. Now when I say high, I'm not necessarily talking about, just like taking like ecstasy or something like that. But what I do want to encourage you is that you can generate your state from within to feel good almost all the time. Now I want to kind of explain this a little bit. Now when I say this, I mean that I still go through waves. I'm not saying that I'm always blissed out and in this like euphoric and lightened state. What I am saying is that the waves that I have now are much higher than they were back in the day. Now, let me explain this. Like 5 years ago, my set point for how I felt was right about here. The idea is that the waves that I would go through would go up and down like this. What happened is the trigger that I'm going to talk to you about in this video is about something, I changed how I thought, and then it got to a point to where then my set point was up here. So the waves I would go through is still kind of similar, but it's at a much higher state. Now, I want to talk to you about that process that I went through and ultimately how you can apply that same process in your life so that if you decide that you want to maybe get rid of something that you feel like you need to do in order to feel a certain way, you can learn how to generate that state from within towards feeling happy and towards ultimately knowing that the power exists within you. A lot of times we'll do certain things and we'll associate it with pleasure, so we think that that's what's giving us pleasure when really we're defining it from within. We're giving it ourselves permission to feel a certain way. Now, I did that for years. I'm going to explain to you what that was and how I moved through that. Now, ultimately, let me take you back. I want to show you how I used to be like 5 years ago so that you can then understand exactly what I'm talking about, towards maybe understanding how I made that transition, and maybe you can relate to it in some way. 5 years ago, if you were to look at me, you'd see that I was a completely different person then than I am now. And one of the biggest changes that happened was I was 5 years ago on what is called Adderall, which is the prescription drug that they give people that have quote-unquote ADHD. And because of that, I would take that during the day, and it would help me focus during the day. But what I realized was there were harsh side effects of it. Now, those side effects are you don't eat as much, and it's also harder to sleep at night. So because of those side effects, what I would do at nighttime was I would smoke weed. Now the weed helps me feel good. It helped me eat and then also sleep. So it was something that I used to kind of balance. During the day this would help me, and during the night this would help me. And it was something that I did for years. And then when I ultimately started meditating, that is when I started to shift my mindset about it, because I started to observe certain things about myself. I started to first off observe my thoughts, observe what I thought about myself, observe everything that I was thinking. And as I began to observe it, I noticed a couple things. I noticed that at the first off, what I was doing was I thought and believed that I had ADHD. Now, of course, this came from an underlying basis of me having this realization that we are creating our own reality, that our emotions, our thoughts are shaping the kind of experiences that we're having. And ultimately, that seed was planted even a little bit longer before that, because I saw the movie The Secret and I started reading literature about it, even books like, this book right here called Think and Grow Rich. But the idea is that as I began to learn these things, I began to become aware of how I thought. And I became aware of the fact that I thought my natural set point was this feeling of like anxiety, or like this, almost like this refrigerator noise in the background of me not feeling good. And I thought that was just my natural state. Now, what I learned though was that as I began to observe those thoughts, I began to get into this space of stillness. And in this space of stillness, I started to feel really good majority of the time, especially while I was doing it. I would do it for 10 minutes right when I woke up in the morning, and 10 minutes right before I go to bed. And I found that those 10 minutes were crucial because it would leak throughout the rest of my day. Now, when I say this, what I am saying is that I got to this place to being able to observe my thoughts, and I became aware of the fact that because I believed I had ADHD and I had sporadic energy, I therefore was creating the effect in my life that I needed something outside of myself, and that comes from buying into the need for pharmaceutical drugs to feel a certain way. And as I became aware of these things, I realized I had the ability to shift it based upon my mindset, becoming aware of the thoughts that I had, and becoming aware that I could separate myself from thinking that that's who I was, and I could start to shape it in a different way. I became aware that my natural state of being is this feeling of love, is this feeling of connection, is this feeling of stillness, of peace. And as I became aware of it through the idea of meditation, I then began to soak in it more. I then began to get into a flow state more often. I found that the more that I focused on it, the better that I felt. What I am saying is that what I realized was that I was almost using it as a crutch for me to feel good. I wasn't doing doing it as a celebration. I was doing it almost every day because I felt like I actually needed it. But what I chose to do was I chose to look at it from a new point of view. I chose to drop this idea that I needed it to feel good, and because I naturally was feeling good from this meditation and feeling this space within more and more, it became just a matter of time before I made the switch. Now, first off, I got rid of Adderall within 2 weeks of meditating. I started to feel better, and I started to understand that I could create the focus from within, and because of that, I completely let go of needing Adderall. Now, after that, it took another couple weeks, and I didn't really have the intention for it at first. I wasn't like, hey, I'm gonna quit smoking. I really didn't have a strong reason for it, other than the fact that I started to feel good all the time, and then because I knew that happiness was my natural state of being and this good feeling, it got to the point to where it didn't give me the same effect. It's like I would smoke and it would dip down. I wouldn't feel as good as it used to make me feel. Now understand this, I believe that my set point, because it was here before, I would smoke and it would spike me up a little bit and make me feel good, and then I would kind of go back to my set point. What happened was then when I started to let go of ideologies that didn't serve me, for example, believing I had ADHD or believing that my natural state of being was some like anxiety, because I dropped those ideas and decided that I was going to focus on feeling present to the moment and feeling the stillness, my vibrational set point or my emotional set point got to up here. And then what happened is as I would smoke, it would dip me down a little bit and then I would dip back up. So I became more aware of this, and then I simply made the decision that if it's not making me feel good anymore, I'm gonna just let it go, and that's what I did. And then from there, it was a little bit longer before I started eating a lot healthier, starting to drink, juices, and started to ultimately make more positive habits in my life. But the truth is I feel amazing, and because I feel so good all the time, or most of the time, there's nothing that really compares to it. I believe that our natural state of being is feeling love, is feeling connection, is feeling high. The only reason that we will feel anything less than that is being identified with our thoughts, being identified with beliefs that don't serve us, that hold us down, almost weigh us down from that set point of feeling good to feeling less than. Anytime we believe that we need something outside of ourselves to feel a certain way, now, of course, this is within limits. I'm not saying if you have some prescription drug or, some condition that means that you need something that you need to let that go. I'm not saying that. What I am saying, though, is that you work with what you believe. If you believe that you can let it go and you actually have the desire to, then maybe look at it from that point of view, or at least entertain the idea, try it on in a way. And what I realized was that as I let go of ideologies that didn't serve me anymore, and I started to let go of the things that were weighing me down, I started to naturally rise up to this good feeling space. And I believe that you can do the same thing by first off understanding that you can validate yourself. You can give yourself permission right now to feel a certain way. And if you understand that you are naturally this good feeling person, that underneath all the baggage that we've identified with is this really good feeling place, what you'll then begin to notice is that you'll then begin to act in alignment with what that is. That is your natural state. Your natural state of being is to feel good most of the time, and is to feel this sense of allowing. Allow the moment to be. Don't be identified with the future. Don't be identified with the past. Allow yourself to allow what is to be what it is. Focus on your desires if that's what you have, but don't become identified with it in the future tense. Be happy now. Realize that you can fill that space within by meditating or having different things that put you into a flow state, and understand that you can cultivate good habits by simply deciding that that is who you are now. You are this good feeling person because that's your natural state of being. When we are born in that natural state, and the only way we don't practice it is if we learn something else or we do habits that serve not who we are but who we think that we are, keeping us in that lower level paradigm. So I encourage you to shift to a higher paradigm by knowing that that's who you are, that you can take action every day in claiming more of that natural state of happiness that exists within you. And as you begin to do that, you'll find that your life begins to change in profound ways. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Feel free to like this video if you liked it, share it if you found it of value, and I'll see you guys on the next vid. All right, much love. Bye.